The summer of 2025 arrived under a cloud of dread, a season where every sunrise seemed to bring new uncertainty and anxiety. The air was thick, heavier than even the relentless Middle Eastern heat, as if the entire region was holding its breath. Years of shadow war between Israel and Iran, cyber attacks, proxies, assassinations, had led to this moment, each side pushing the other closer to the edge. Rhetoric from Tehran and Jerusalem grew sharper. Diplomatic channels collapsed, leaving only threats and accusations echoing across borders. Intelligence agencies warned, open war was imminent. The sense of impending disaster was impossible to ignore, as leaders scrambled to prepare for the worst. By June, military buildups and rerouted flights signaled the coming storm. Borders bristled with troops, and the skies grew tense with anticipation. In Tel Aviv, fighter jets roared overhead, a constant reminder that conflict could erupt at any moment. In Tehran, Revolutionary Guards patrolled the streets, their presence a warning and a promise of swift retaliation. The world watched, hoping for de-escalation, fearing the worst. In homes and cafes, people clung to news updates, searching for any sign of hope. The trigger came on June 13th. Under darkness, Israel launched a massive assault deep into Iran. Their targets, military installations, air defense systems, and command centers. And at the heart of it all, Iran's nuclear program, long a source of suspicion and fear, was struck with precision. The shadow war was over, the real war had begun. Emergency UN sessions convened through the night, as diplomats raced to contain the fallout. Global condemnation followed, but bombs spoke louder than words. The world's pleas for restraint were drowned out by the thunder of explosions. For civilians, politics meant little. Life became a blur of sirens and fear. Families huddled in basements, children clung to parents, and every moment was shadowed by uncertainty. The region's long-simmering tension had finally exploded, and the world watched in horror as a new chapter of conflict began to unfold. In Tel Aviv, vibrant life vanished as air raid sirens sent people underground. Families huddled in shelters, glued to their phones, waiting for news. The Iron Dome's contrails became a symbol of hope and dread. Children learned the seconds between siren and impact. Daily life was a negotiation with fear. In Tehran, Israeli strikes shattered any illusion of safety. Checkpoints, shortages, and anxiety gripped the city, while state media projected defiance. War replaced routine with uncertainty, and both cities braced for what would come next. Israel's June 13th attack was a masterclass in military precision, targeting Iran's nuclear sites at Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan. Bunker-busting bombs devastated years of Iranian infrastructure. The strikes expanded to command centers and missile sites, aiming to cripple Iran's response. For 12 days, Israel's assault was relentless, but Iran struck back quickly, launching over 550 missiles and 200 drones at Israeli cities. Iron Dome and Arrow defenses intercepted most, but some broke through. The psychological toll was immense. Nowhere felt safe. This was no proxy war. State-on-state conflict had arrived. Iran's conventional missile power proved it could inflict real pain. The world watched as the conflict escalated, and the US prepared to intervene. The region teetered on the edge of catastrophe. With US troops stationed across the Middle East, from sprawling bases in Qatar to outposts in Iraq and Syria, America was already deeply entangled in the region's volatile security landscape. The sudden escalation threatened American interests directly. Embassies, oil facilities, and the safety of thousands of US personnel were now at risk. President Trump faced a stark decision. Let Israel stand alone and risk losing American influence, or intervene and risk igniting a much wider war that could spiral out of control. Ultimately, the US responded with a show of force. Two bombers and Tomahawk missiles joined Israeli jets in a coordinated assault on Iranian nuclear sites, sending a clear message of American resolve. The intervention was carefully framed as limited and precise, with Pentagon officials emphasizing that the goal was to deter further escalation, not to start a new war. But for Iran's leaders, the strikes confirmed their worst fears. America and Israel were now openly united against them, and the threat to their regime had never felt more real. The world reacted swiftly. BRICS nations condemned the US-Israeli strikes as reckless, while European leaders urgently called for restraint and immediate de-escalation to prevent a regional catastrophe. Iran retaliated within hours, launching missiles and claiming to have struck a US base in Qatar, raising fears of a direct military confrontation between the two powers. Tensions soared as warships and fighter jets from both sides scrambled, pushing the US and Iran dangerously close to all-out war. After 12 days of relentless fighting, a tense US-brokered ceasefire was announced on June 24. Israel claimed victory, while Iran insisted it had survived against overwhelming odds. Inspectors soon revealed that Iran's nuclear program was badly damaged, but not completely destroyed, leaving the core issue unresolved. The ceasefire was fragile, more a pause than true peace. Civilians and soldiers alike waited anxiously, knowing the conflict could reignite at any moment. Both sides quietly prepared for the next phase, mobilizing troops and repositioning military assets as the world watched with bated breath. The most dangerous act of this unfolding drama was about to play out at sea, where a single miscalculation could spark a new and even deadlier conflict. After the ceasefire, the USS Nimitz carrier group became the symbol of US power in the region. The Nimitz, with over 5,000 crew and 90 aircraft, patrolled the Arabian Sea, flanked by advanced cruisers and destroyers. Its mission: deter Iran, protect shipping, and reassure allies. The carrier strike group was considered nearly invulnerable, until now. On July 5th, as the Nimitz sailed international waters, US intelligence warned of a possible Iranian attack. For Iran, striking the carrier would be a symbolic victory, shattering the myth of American invincibility. Iranian planners prepared a complex, coordinated assault. The Nimitz steamed ahead, unaware it was about to face a new kind of threat. The stage was set for a confrontation that would redefine naval warfare. The world held its breath. The balance of power was about to be tested. The unthinkable was about to happen. On July 5th, in a move that stunned the world, Iran launched a massive, coordinated missile attack on the Nimitz strike group stationed in the Persian Gulf. The operation was meticulously planned, catching US forces off guard in the early hours before dawn. Dozens of ballistic and cruise missiles streaked toward their targets from deep inside Iran, arcing high above the desert and sea. The sky was suddenly alive with deadly trails, each missile programmed for destruction. US warships' radars lit up instantly. Alarms blared as interceptors and CIW's guns fired in a desperate, coordinated defense. Sailors scrambled to battle stations, bracing for impact as the threat closed in. The Aegis system performed heroically, tracking and engaging multiple incoming threats at once. But the sheer volume of missiles overwhelmed even the best defenses, pushing the crew to their limits. A Khyber missile slammed into the USS Princeton, crippling the cruiser in a single, devastating blow. The ship was left dead in the water, its crew fighting to contain the damage. Then, two missiles struck the Nimitz, one tearing through the flight deck, another detonating in the hangar bay. The explosions rocked the massive carrier, sending shockwaves through the fleet. Fires raged out of control, fueled by jet fuel and munitions. Aircraft were destroyed in seconds, and thick black smoke billowed skyward, visible for miles. The pride of the US Navy was burning, its decks engulfed in flames. The unthinkable had happened. America's floating fortress was under siege. The attack lasted only minutes, but its impact would last decades. Survivors moved through the wreckage, stunned by the scale of destruction. The myth of carrier invulnerability was shattered in a single morning. The world watched in disbelief as the mighty Nimitz burned. The world's most powerful warship had been brought to its knees by a regional power, forever altering the balance of naval power and military strategy. The day the sea burned marked a turning point in military history, a moment when technology, tactics, and courage collided with devastating consequences. Nothing would ever be the same. The world had witnessed the vulnerability of giants, and the echoes of this attack would shape the future of warfare. Chaos followed the attack: fires, casualties, and a crippled Nimitz. 41 US sailors killed, over 150 injured. The carrier was mission-killed, unable to launch aircraft. The US retaliated with limited strikes, but all-out war was avoided. The Pentagon and navies worldwide were stunned. For 70 years, carriers ruled the seas. Now their vulnerability was exposed. Military doctrine shifted overnight. Distributed lethality, drones, and advanced missile defenses became the new focus. The attack forced a global reassessment of naval power. The future would be defined by unmanned systems, hypersonics, and electronic warfare. July 5, 2025, became a defining moment. Like Midway or the sinking of the Bismarck, the gap between superpowers and regional powers narrowed, thanks to asymmetric technology. The lesson was clear: no fortress is truly safe. The era of carrier dominance was over. A new, more dangerous chapter in warfare had begun.